piss off. I'll make this real quick and simple. It's not going to happen. It doesn't matter what Rian Johnson says. Whatever trilogy he still thinks he has in his head, it is not happening. Let's break this down really quickly because this leads into another topic I've been wanting to get into about the Lucasfilm leak fest that has been going on. It seems to continue to persist. But I want to start with this, and then we're going to cut and break to this other stuff because it does tie together. It's the same goofball stuff that's going on. Rian Johnson reportedly confirms his Star Wars trilogy is still in development. Now, I'm bringing this up from Bounding into Comics. I'd rather use them than some other sites. But let's just cut to the chase. Rian Johnson says that his previously announced Star Wars trilogy is still in development. That literally everything is in development, right? Anything and everything can be in development. In development can mean something as silly as somebody has an idea and wants to do this, and it will be considered in development. Unless there's a contract and a check written, and let me tell you right now, if you think, and I don't care what you think about the SJW stuff, and Disney's on board with it, Disney's not on board with it, I don't care. At the end of the day, if you seriously believe that Disney, Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, would greenlight what would have to be at least at a bare minimum of $600 million to probably upwards of $1 billion for a trilogy, a 3-movie set of Star Wars films, because you can't make Star Wars films on low budget. So if you really think they're gonna drop hundreds of millions of dollars of production and marketing on something like this, attached to the name of Rian Johnson, in the same sentence as Star Wars, you're joking yourselves. Because at the end of the day, they know they're going to lose money. They know what happened to what happened after Last Jedi came out, and whether Disney will come out publicly and admit something or not, it does not matter. They understand there is a stink associated to Rian Johnson's name when it comes to Star Wars. Now, does that mean that Rian Johnson is a terrible storyteller or a terrible director top to bottom? No, I want to be fair. I like this movie. I like Knives Out. I really enjoyed it. My kids liked it. This was a fun movie for what it was, and it's a Rian Johnson movie. Rian Johnson simply does not belong anywhere near Star Wars. That's it. And in this movie, Rian Johnson, yeah, he's got his political takes and stuff going on in there, but you can look past it. It's just it's his own film. It's his own story. It's not somebody else's story that he's trying to carry. That's the difference with doing movies and productions like Star Wars. And I think Disney has become cognizant of this fact at this point. So I don't want to belabor this. This is not going to change anything. And this is what I meant to scroll to, sorry. This was the interview that he did with this fangirl, I guess. Oh my God, I just did an interview with Rian Johnson for the last hour. It was so much fun. He's such the best. Yay. And he says that, yeah, he's still in development. That doesn't mean anything. It means Rian Johnson is sitting around in his house and he's still thinking about the story he wants to tell and he's kind of writing it. It doesn't mean it's going anywhere. So how it all fits together is pretty simple. This all started back in 2017 with the release of The Last Jedi. And it's also the last time you'll ever see a Rian Johnson Star Wars movie. As I said in the introductory part to this video, leading into this, look, after this movie, that was it. So this whole thing about Rian Johnson was announced early on. Now it's done. And from this, and this is why this is important, is that this was kind of the beginning of the end for Kathy as we look back from this standpoint in 2021. And I know she got renewed a few months after Solo, for another 3 years, and here we are in 2021, and her contract is up once again for renewal this year in October. October 30th, I believe, is what her contract runs through. So we're going to find out in the next few months if Disney's going to keep her around or not. I happen to think that her likelihood of staying is very much in doubt. I think Disney has already lined up a person to replace her that's a financial manager. At least that's the way it really seems. Could be dead wrong. This is just my feeling at this point. And that's a conversation for another video because that would take up a lot of time. But I think basically the bottom line is that, yes, I think at this point, what's going on in Lucasfilm as far as this civil war, this is it. As of right now, it seems like a war of attrition. One side trying to outlast the other. Kennedy's side has a much shorter clock on them as of this moment because they're only contracted up through this year, not even through the end of this year. So we have to see what happens. But what does she do in that case? When you have backed a dangerous animal into a corner, that's usually when they become even more dangerous, right? And maybe that's some of what's going on here. When we see leaks, the stories that came out about, well, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to last year. And we get this. New rumor that Disney Details is working on a female-centric Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. This is the Leslie Headland Acolyte show. Now, this was something that was not officially greenlit from upstairs. This was something that was, let's sneak it out there. And Kennedy and Lucasfilm just kind of slipped this under the radar directly into Variety and other, friendly Hollywood publications. Because I think what she figured out is once the story is out there, just like the failures of The Last Jedi and Solo and Rise of Skywalker, Disney does not just walk out on the stage and go, oops, sorry, we'll try again. They never have. They never will. There will always be changes when that happens, but they're going to be quiet. It's like what they're doing in Galaxy's Edge right now. Making all the sequel trilogy stuff kind of slowly disappear, replacing the merchandise with Baby Yoda, Mandalorian, Clone Wars, Rebels, traditional original trilogy Star Wars, all the Reylo stuff, all that slowly disappearing because it can't sell. And I think Galaxy's Edge will continue to get slowly reskinned over time. And again, they're not going to make a big announcement about it. It's just going to happen. And this is kind of the same thing I think going on with Kathy right now. Kathy's going to come out and announce things like this, but she has to be around long enough to see this through. The Acolyte is still not even slated to start production for probably, at least another year. Her contract as it stands now is up in October, in 7 months, roughly. Unless that changes between now and then, don't expect to see the Acolyte. And the other reason, of course, again, previous video, I'll put a link below. Go watch it. A lot of good information in there. The Acolyte is tied to the High Republic. That's it. It's a show that takes place at the end of the High Republic era, and the books and comics that they've put out that are currently out there now and failing their butts off are what is supposed to be leading into the events of the Acolyte. And if you cannot sell a bunch of comic books and young adult novels to any degree of reasonable success when they have the name Star Wars on them, okay? So here we are.
It's the High Republic. Y'all want to get high?
No, Kathy, we don't want to get high. I mean, nobody wants this crap, okay? So the Acolyte is probably never going to happen, and we'll probably get more rumors about the Acolyte. Again, it'll be one of those things. I'll believe it when I see Leslie Headland or whoever else is on there, on the ground with cameras, a check in their hand, and production rolling. And I want to see what kind of budget it is, That's another part. So, then we started getting the leaky Lucasfilm stuff, right? And in the last couple of weeks, we got leaks about wanting to make Gina apologize. And that she did apologize. We even had one about that. Had a video about that one. Because there's been so much going on since I jumped on YouTube. I picked the right week. That turned out to be bogus, didn't it? Gina came out herself, apparently, just the other day when she talked about her being let go. Not only was she not informed ahead of time, Gina was told she would have to make an apology in a manner that Disney would prescribe, and that she would have to use the official corporate language, and she refused. And I think, obviously, that angered them. Now, a lot has been said about, again, Civil War, goings on. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni on one side, Kathy Kennedy and her story group on the other. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Although I think some people have it in their heads that maybe it's more epic than it really is. I think at the end of the day, look, Kathy's still the CEO of Lucasfilm. That's absolutely true. She still has authority to either write and confirm contracts or not. And as it turns out, look, I don't think anybody has been contracted for a third season of Mandalorian yet. It doesn't seem so. Because what happened? We just got Pedro Pascal being announced that he was going to play the lead character in a movie adaptation of a popular video game. The Last of Us? I've never played it. I don't know. And part of that contract, I think, as initially reported by Deadline, was that it was going to be a first-position contract, meaning the shooting schedule of that movie would take precedence over any other project that Pedro had. It's a little strange. If everything was kind of solidified up with Mando Season 3 and when that was, maybe they don't interfere, maybe there's some things we don't know, but it just seems a little strange at this point. Just like the leaking of the firing of Gina Carano when she was never told. She found out on Twitter with the rest of us. The bottom line is this seems like there's a lot of just kind of desperate gasps by Kennedy at this point, if not to just burn the whole house down on her way out the door, to maybe try and try to get as much as she can done before she's out. So maybe part of her knows that she's leaving. And this is why, again, because once things are out in the ether, it's very difficult, if not impossible, for Disney to come out and walk them back. It's just not what they ever do. And for the people out there that are still saying, you know what, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and the rest of Gina Carano's cast should be coming out and backing her up. And how can they? They can't. They're stuck. They're, especially guys like Favreau and Filoni, they're there to win a war. They're there, I think, in their own minds. They're trying to bring Star Wars back to fans. Favreau has said as much. He really wants to do Star Wars for the fans. He wants to make it right. Well, he can't do that if he starts mouthing off against the person who's frankly still in charge of the studio. Even if she can't fire him, maybe she still has that power, maybe she does not. My understanding is that's it's really kind of a thing between him and Iger at this point, and I think Iger would step in. I think if Jon Favreau left, I think that would really be the end of it right now. That would really be a terrible sign, and it's not something that Iger wants. Look, and Iger is he's a guy that was retired from Disney. He was leaving, and then in came the virus, and he decided, you know what, I don't want to leave Disney in this shape. I want to stay here and get them through this because I don't want to walk away from this company leaving it in worse shape than I found it. Iger's the guy that was responsible for Pixar, for Marvel, and now Lucasfilm Star Wars. And I think Iger is at the same point. He does not want to walk away completely without making sure that the ship is moving in the right direction. And Lucasfilm being the biggest purchase, the biggest acquisition that he's made as far as money goes, I don't think he wants to walk away with so much rocky stuff. So from one respect, okay, Lucasfilm comes out and announces they're not going to recontract Gina anytime in the future. She didn't have a contract now. She wasn't currently working at Lucasfilm, and they said they had no plans to in the future. What does that really mean? Does that mean that they can't come back and change their minds? Sure. But it might not be until after Kathy goes. And again, I don't think Disney's going to waste time trying to walk things back. I think they will let her contract expire. They have a replacement in mind for her, I'm sure, already. And hopefully going forward, guys like Favreau and Filoni will have creative control without worrying about who is running the Twitter account and without having to worry about who is running the Facebook account, who is running the media and the leaks about shows that probably will, and like the Acolyte, I don't even know if Lando will ever go off. That's another one. Time will tell. A lot of times they throw stuff out there to see what sticks. So, look, you got leaks about Kevin Feige and Michael Waldron going to be doing a movie. Now, those kind of things I can believe because those are the kind of things that that's the kind of thing that a Bob Iger himself would have put together. I mean, Kevin Feige didn't just walk into Lucasfilm and say, hey, I'm going to come do a movie over here. And Kathy Kennedy sure as hell probably didn't call him up. So that's an easy one for that. But when you got things out there that that just don't make a whole lot of sense, when you start looking at the rumors and you start looking at things like this, look, it's a waiting game right now. And that's it. It's a waiting game. A lot of this stuff is coming from inside. The things that we don't like are what's coming directly from Kathleen Kennedy inside Lucasfilm, and I doubt it's going much further up the flagpole than that. And Disney is just not going to jump out there and contradict any of it. It's going to be handled quietly behind the scenes, and things will slowly change over time, just as they have in Galaxy's Edge, just as we have seen with the gradual... Look, they've almost completely ignored... Disney has now almost gotten to the point where they have completely ignored the existence of the sequel trilogies. The merchandising's disappeared. There's nothing going forward on Disney Plus with it. Nothing seems to be touching any of the characters on Disney Plus with it. There's no movies announced coming out anytime in the future regarding any of these characters or any of the events. The toys are gone. The stuff in Galaxy's Edge is changing back to the stuff that we know and that we love. Did Disney come out and announce anything about just, you know what, never mind no, they're just slowly doing it. Slowly doing it. Slowly replacing things with the stuff that people want, that people are going to buy. The stuff that people are going to spend money on. So I don't think Kathy's going to be around after this year. Because it's one thing to fire her. It's another thing to just simply let the attrition happen naturally. And that is that her contract expires and they can come out and say, you know, we feel like Kathy's had a good run and we wish her well in next endeavor, but we have a new chapter that we want to write in Star Wars' history, and we're moving forward with a new team, insert person here. As I said before, maybe Mohsen Gupta just being a CFO in a CEO's chair and letting guys like Favreau just be creative directors. So we will see. We will see how that plays out. We will see what happens with this as time goes on. But, you know, it's a shame what happened to Gina, but I'm still, until I see something different, I'm pretty convinced this is just something this was done by Lucasfilm without any knowledge or go ahead from upstairs. And again, Disney they're not going to come out and look bad. They're not going to come out and walk this back right away. And because they are not a company that likes to show internal division, internal strife. They do not like to admit mistakes. They do not like to show weaknesses. And they're going to act like, well, this was okay. This was the decision all along. And then slowly over time, we will see things at Lucasfilm change, I think. Now, of course, if we get to the summer months, and we get some terrible announcement that Kathleen Kennedy has had her contract extended for another 3 years, I think at that point you can go ahead and pretty much just shrug and throw in the towel. But I don't think we're quite there yet. And if they do that, I mean, as long as her contract keeps her in her office just running Twitter and Facebook, I couldn't care less. But that's not how it's going to work. She's still going to have creative control. She's still going to have power over things, and she's still going to have a lot of spite. But I think at the end of the day, Disney knows, Bob Iger knows, Chapek knows, the investors, the stockholders that vote, the people like Vanguard Mutual Funds, BlackRock Mutual Funds, these guys that own huge portions of outstanding Disney stock. Look, they need this stuff to make money. They expected to see that $4 billion purchase of Star Wars look like the purchase of Marvel, and it isn't anywhere close to Marvel right now. It's not even a fly on the windshield next to Marvel, and that's a problem. And I don't think Bob Iger is going to leave with that like it is. Take care.